Could so called tiny homes be a big part of the solution for people without adequate housing in Hamilton? Justin Chandler covers Hamilton Niagara for Ontario Hubs. He recently heard how the experience in Kitchener could offer some answers for the Hammer, and that's where we find him tonight. Welcome, Justin.
Hello.
Let's talk about the Hamilton Alliance for Tiny Shelters. What is it?
So, the Hamilton Alliance for Tiny Shelters is a group of, like minded individuals, some of them from longstanding community organizations in the city, like the Social Planning and Research Council or the Poverty Reduction Roundtable. But also, I think people who are more new to this, but who are really keen on the idea of tiny homes and tiny homes specifically as a solution to help people who are currently living in encampments.
So there is a similar project in Kitchener-Waterloo area. What are tiny shelters meant to do for a city and sort of the fabric of community there?
Yeah, I guess the best way to start is just to sort of look at what we currently have in a lot of places, which is people who, for whatever reason, can't or don't want to get into shelters. There's a lot of valid reasons around that we won't get into right now, but who end up living in tent encampments. And the idea with a tiny homes community is that this could be a better, safer option than that. Encampments are often illegal, so people are sort of on the run from bylaw who are constantly taking down tents and moving them around. The idea with this is that people would have a safe location that they could live while they wait to get into perhaps social housing or get on their feet and be able to get into something more permanent, but where they would be safe and where different social services could actually reach out to and assist them. So it's really sort of saying, let's look at kind of what's currently happening and find something that's better than that.
Okay, so you spoke to a consultant on the Hamilton project. I'm curious, what did he say was the most challenging part of gaining approval for tiny projects and tiny homes? Because we can imagine there's a lot of red tape, a lot of policy that you have to get through.
That was Tony D'Amato Storts, who's just written a book about how to do this. And really, he said the biggest, most difficult thing is actually just finding a place and getting the political will. He said it's not easy to set up one of these communities, but that's not the most challenging part. The most challenging part is finding a place where it's legal to set this up, where you can get it zoned properly, you can get the hookups that you need for electricity, where the neighbors aren't going to be fighting it. So really, he said it's more of a political challenge at this point for Hamilton or for anyone who's trying to set something up at the beginning.
All right, so I know we have some photos of these tiny shelters. Let's take a look at some. This is what a tiny shelter would look like from the outside. Do you know the dimensions of the structure as well?
Yes, 8 by 10 feet.
8 by 10, and so we're looking at one window. Now we do have an entrance, I believe inside, it's also decked out with a mini fridge and a microwave. I found this interesting. The entryway, there was a bit of a conversation about something that I think lots of people don't think about in terms of doors opening in and out. Walk me through that story.
Yeah, Tony was explaining that for a lot of us, we're used to our doors opening inwards. But one of the things that he ended up finding out with a better tent city in Kitchener, where he was a superintendent for a year, was that people actually preferred outswinging doors. And originally they had just done this because they thought it would give people more space inside, but people actually felt it was a lot safer because if someone came and kicked your door or was trying to force their way in, the door is not opening that way because it's going outwards. And so he said this is really a good example of where listening to residents and talking to the people who are partners at the site who are living there actually really helps do this better on sites in the future.
One thing we noted in that second photo was there was a microwave and a fridge, so there is some electricity, but there is no plumbing. And I am curious, for the electricity portion, who pays for that?
That does depend on the model of the site. So some sites are partially funded by cities and partially funded by like the groups that are backing them. So I guess by philanthropy, by donations, community organizations. Some sites are funded by municipalities fully. So that's something that needs to be worked out for each site. But definitely electricity is one of the most important things as far as getting these set up. In Tony's book, he says that water can be brought in. You could have porta potties if you can't get access to like a physical washroom building, but electricity is necessary for heat and for lighting and for entertainment.
All right, and let's look at our final photo. This is a photo, obviously, of the bed, a significant upgrade for a lot of people when we talk about the comparison of a tent to a shelter like this. When we talk about the city and maintaining the shelter, does the city take responsibility on that?
I think that would again be up to the model. So for a municipally funded site, presumably the city would be a lot more active in that. But for a site that's being led more grassroots, then I think they would be responsible for keeping it up to code. It's also the case that the residents do a lot of the work. Tony was saying that the people who live here, these are their homes. So if shoveling needs to be done in the winter, the site superintendent can buy a shovel, but then it's really up to the residents to take care of that. So it's not quite as simple as just like the city coming in and doing everything.
I know when you were talking to D'Amato about sort of this as a solution to homelessness, what did he say about this sort of being, is this where it sort of ends, or is this just the beginning and the start?
He called this a port in the storm. This is sort of a middle. So for someone who's unhoused and who doesn't have access to shelter right now, this would be great. So if a site like this can take 10 or 20 people out of homelessness, or sorry, I should say out of houselessness, give them that roof over their head, and give them an opportunity to sort of catch their breath, get the paperwork that they need in order to apply for social services, maybe be on a wait list for affordable housing. It's really that sort of a safer middle step for people. But he says it's definitely not the solution to ending homelessness writ large. That's going to require a lot more social investment and all sorts of work from various sectors.
Justin, we have about 30 seconds left. I do want to ask you something that obviously comes up in this conversation is that, not in my backyard type of attitude. And I know that he had some advice in terms of tackling that. What did he have to say?
Well, one of the things he said is that for people who are worried about a site like this, the impact's probably not going to be near as big as they think. That a lot of the things that worry people about having a shelter nearby or having unhoused people nearby aren't going to apply because people are going to be safe within their own community. You're probably not even going to run into them that much. But really, he said the main thing to remember is that just because you don't want someone here, like they're still a member of the community. And they still deserve respect and care and safety. And he said that's a point that's really important to make.
Justin, great story. Really appreciate your time for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Take care.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.